not creating the already created links from previously, like it's
It's
directing to your live streaming page.
for me, it's showing that it's this meeting is being sent to customer live streaming service.
Do you mean to go to hold on. Oh, it looks like AI is doing the work in the background. How much
Yeah,
fun
you
is
are alive. We are alive on YouTube. Hi,
we
we.
are live on YouTube. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, how much fun can we have today?
Uh,
Welcome to Viva Alive, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Daniela Limos. And we're going to talk about today something really cool. Why don't you introduce the topic today, Daniela?
yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. The topic today is making things work. Yeah, I think it's a curious topic.
And we're going to record it so you can have it later too.
Yes, yes. I'd say that making things work doesn't mean living a life without challenges. It also doesn't mean getting everything we want. It's realizing that even when something doesn't happen the way I imagine, for example, I can still create a new path. Starting to, yeah, starting to observe what is the situation show me. Is this situation show me? And for you,
Well, and it's funny because it's true for a lot of people. I was making funny faces because I was going, really? We can't have and create everything we're asking to create? So I'm like pretty much like a kid, like, don't tell me no. Don't tell me no, that's not possible. Um, but yes, and life will always give us curves. You know, it always throws situations and information at us. But the trick is, and this is what the greatness of this conversation is how do we make it work for us? How is it that when we come across a scenario that's not working, or we would like to have something in our lives that we can actually have it work? And that's the key, you know? And I was thinking today as I was like looking at this, going, do we work hard
yeah,
at life? Are we working really hard at living? Or what if we were to make it so that living was more living and less work?
yeah, that's good. I think many people wait to feel more confident or before starting for looking for a new path or a new opportunity. But sometimes they wait to be certain and they wait for motivation to arrive. Usually
Well,
comes after action. Yeah, I think it comes that we said before.
it's fine because what you brought up is really pertinent. Because even if it's like, go, well, how do I make things work? Could just be an invitation to something. And it's most people, to your point, Daniela, is that they wait until they're absolutely certain about anything before they make a choice, even if it's like, how do I make this work? So it's true. And it's that hesitation and the place where we function from that actually doesn't even allow us to experience life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is a tendency to believe that the result appears first and then we change. Then we change. But often I think it's the other way around. We create our reality. First, the way we think change, the way we perceive the opportunities, for example, changes, and then the quality of our actions change, our choices change, and the results start to follow that change. and create more room for new results.
Well, what if we were to function beyond results? I mean,
Yeah.
this is a sort of a weird concept for most people, but most people look at it and go, how do I make this work so I get this result? Right? But what is there that's beyond result? So if you kind of get the sense that when we ask that, like, how do I make this work so it ends up looking like this? Well, what if the looking like that is a limitation? What we decided we need to make happen, make it work to be a certain way, is actually smaller than what we could possibly create with our lives. So if it wasn't a result and you just ask, how do I make this work without the perception of where it has to go? Then what more is available to us as beings when we don't kind of look to close down all of the possibilities that are there? Just from like, how do I make this work? Okay, I would start with, you know how we're always like asking questions, giving ideas. I would start with, how do I make this work? And then get the sense of what is required, maybe.
I think there are tools for that help me always. There are questions I like to ask myself when I notice something has gotten stuck, for example. What haven't I noticed yet? It's one of them. And is there a lighter way to create this? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think question don't bring you ready-made answers, but they change our attention away from the problem and expand our awareness.
Well, is is yes, that's correct. And I just wonder what is beyond the world of problems. So if it wasn't a problem, if you're aware of something that's showing up in your world, and if you didn't see it as a problem, if you could see it as I get the sense that this requires attention, yeah, to have it be greater, it requires some attention and for it to be different. And then from the place of what is it that could be greater from that, actually allows it to be greater rather than creating it as a density, the density of a problem. Did we lose everybody, Daniela?
No, I think, like you said before, we don't need work even harder to make things work. But sometimes we just need to look from a different place, change the strategy, for example, ask for help and avoid a conclusion. Yeah, there is a difference between persistent, for example, and insistence. Making works also means knowing when the change course. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it is. It's because when you say, "Hey, how can I make this work?" It doesn't have to start that it's not um, already a density of something that needs to be changed. It could just be, I'm going to start this new, by example, I was like, I'm going to start this new program. How can I make it work? And then from the question, get a sense of what it is that sort of comes into your awareness from the question. That's one way when you look at multiple scenarios that could come up from what we're presenting as this session. So how can I make this work? Could be what is it that's required to something that you're looking to create to have it come together or be greater or have more ease. Sort of beyond it's already something that's sort of collapsed and I need to change course. I mean, but it's true. A lot of people don't realize they can change course, that they have to keep going with a strategic plan. Even though they know the strategic plan isn't working, then they just keep going. That, that's like driving your car and your navigation system tells you you've taken the wrong turn, but you keep going down the place where it's the wrong turn to get to your place of destination. But we change it. We go, oh, it's telling me I'm off course. So let me go and reroute. But why wouldn't we do that every place in our
Mm,
lives?
exactly. So, a few practical actions to add in this situation. I think it's good we stop waiting for the perfect scenario. And another one that I always use for my life, I learned from what didn't work without becoming it a conclusion.
Okay,
And
say more
yeah,
about that. That's really fascinating.
yeah. I think when you open for the questions and new possibilities, we open the space, create a space for something different happen. So when you come with a conclusion, you come with limit, and you stop sometimes. And yeah, ask questions that open your path, like, we said before. And I'm always remembering that the great transformations usually being with small choices every day. And
Okay,
I always doing this in for my life.
that's fabulous. So making things work in your life could just be a continuum of small choices every day. So what do we do about things when they come into your world and they're not working? What can we talk to people about in that framework?
For example, when a project or situation doesn't happen the way we imagine,
Hmm.
I try to not to transform into a conclusion
Hmm.
about myself or about situation. Instead, I pause and ask, do I need to adjust my communication or anything else here? Is there another way? The change, the change in perspective makes the difference. And when you stop looking for someone or some situation to give the conclusion, start looking for possibilities, our
Hmm.
creativity comes back sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and when something shows up in our world, it's like those are such great points, Daniela, because when things show up in our world that seem challenging, we'll call it, we tend to contract into the challenge of it rather than look at how it could be done differently. And one of the tools I use, or one of the questions I use when things are like upside down, I'll call it upside down, is what would it take to change this? It's simple. It's like one of the simplest questions. Why wouldn't we ask a question like, what would it take to change this? And then, and then from that, look at, what comes up. And it's really funny because I often, when I'm in the grocery store, And you know, these people, I always engage with them. They're at the checkout counter, and I go, "How are you doing today?" And usually they say, "I'm so tired." And then I'll go, "Huh, what would it take to change that?" And you can see their brain and their mind is going, "Oh, I can do something different about this. I can change this. Why, blah, blah, blah." And you can see in their head, like, not that I see their thoughts, but you can see where that somewhere in their world, they're looking at the places where they can change things. And it's kind of remarkable because asking that question to anybody opens the door for them to make things work. Even if you're not telling them, it's not for you to tell them how to make it work, but asking the question, they'll come up with their own ideas about it. Or not. Or maybe 3 weeks later, they might, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what other questions can people ask when they have a scenario that isn't working?
Wow. What is the question? Maybe, yeah. What conclusion am I choosing or defending today?
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't, would open space for something much greater in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you say more about that?
Um, I have a story of my life. Maybe we can
Sure.
have an example for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone had met me a few years ago, they probably would have described me only like an economist. My routine was made of planning, indicators, numbers, and I'm very grateful for everything that I lived through in this
Mm-hmm.
phase. In a moment came I when I realized I wanted to understand something yours, and I want to understand more about the consciousness, behavior, changing. And I didn't have a perfect plan for that. I just had in my heart, in my feeling. I never imagined that one day I will bring this work for companies and for develop projects that combine well-being, behavior, and performance. For example, record this podcast. And it was built along the way. The one opportunity opened space for the next. Yeah, and look back, I realized making this work never mean waiting for the perfect moment. Yeah, I mean, to create even without seeing the whole path. And I think that's one of the greatest lesson life has taught me. Yeah, the situation.
Cool. Yeah, and you've mentioned that twice, which is so interesting, about waiting for the perfect time to make what I'm guessing is what you mean by that is like make the jump into something, as though it was a jump into something that would allow your life to work or to make things work. I mean, what you've described, when you're working and stuff, sometimes it's not exactly like I'm going to have a bowl of soup or I'm going to have a hamburger for lunch. It's like a much, a much bigger choice than that. And so when we look at that to have a sense of what that is, but we can actually, how you can play with it is to get a sense of what it is that you would like to have that would make it work. So so this morning I went for coffee and I went with my friend for coffee and I was saying, I've been asking for a car and a driver for a long time. Sometimes when I travel, I always get that. And I always have somebody drive me. When I'm in Toronto, which is where I currently live, I don't always have a driver. But my friend picked me up. We went for coffee, and I went, "Oh, now I have a driver." But it's not exactly what I had in mind. Like, where's the Bentley? Where's the place where, like, I'm sitting in the back and someone, well, I could work while it is that they're busy busy doing the driving, which is so funny because it's sort of like is not exactly what I had in mind, but it is what I asked for.
Yeah.
I asked to have drivers, and I
Mhm.
create drivers everywhere I go. And so it's really funny because I'm going, I wonder how I could make this work greater than that. Find a Bentley, get a Bentley, get someone who could do all those things for me that I am asking for to make my life easier and greater. And we often talk about this, Daniela,
Yeah.
because we play together a lot, is like looking at scenarios and how can we make it work with the awareness that there are certain things that people generally do to make things work. And then how to color outside the lines of how everyone else is doing it to see if there are other possibilities to to explore. And I think that that's like the fun of anything that you can do. You know, like when I was a kid, we would go out at 9 o'clock in the morning. We were told to come back at lunch. The day was full of adventure, always
Mhm.
full of adventure, climbing trees, catching frogs, uh, playing, like doing stuff that was like whatever it is that we were creating in our imagination. But what if every day could be like that?
Yeah.
You know, could be the joy of creation. And so making your life work is from that experience of creation and fun.
Wow. So make things work. It's about developing ability, the ability to stay present, like when you're a child, curious, and
Curious.
yes, maybe open to create new possibilities whenever the old one stop working.
Yeah, and it's funny because life is transitional always. We're
Yeah.
always expanding, learning, knowing things. We get bored, then we want to add something different. So it's not that the old, like whatever it is that we've had going on in our lives is wrong or bad. It worked when it was working. And now it's not working any longer. And if you can address that from like, now what? From the fun of the exploration of it rather than going, oh, my life has been so bad and I made all the wrong choices and it's just not working for me and blah 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 blah. I'm going, oh, now what? Like now what? Which is kind of a fun way to sort of start looking at how you would like to create things so that they work for you. So, Daniela, we always end our episodes with questions. So, what question would you like to share today about making things work?
Yeah. If I stop trying to do everything the same way, what new possibility might start working for me?
Okay. Wow. That's a great thought-provoking question. So, what question can I come up with today? Hmm. How can I create this as more fun? I know people go, well, how is that going to work when things aren't working? How can I create it as more fun? And
Yeah.
actually, things start to work greater when you're doing it from that place. So, thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Viva Live. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great one, everybody.
Bye bye.